David, there you go. Only one here today, one here this morning. Remember the 9,500 subscribers over there at the Tomb of Illumination? And that's only a fraction of what really there should be, but never mind, we know their game. Nothing worse than going up the road and asking for an extra hot coffee and the damn thing comes out colder than a normal coffee. Doesn't that piss you off? You want to sit there and enjoy a nice cup of coffee and the flippin' idiots can't even make a hot one. You know, it's the second time I've been up to that cafe in about 2 years, and the last time I actually told them. They went away and came back with a hotter coffee, but there's a lot of people there. I didn't want to make a scene. I just thought, oh, bugger this, I won't come back again. I had a bit of slice of cake that looked a bit like some sort of frangipani or something. But there's way too much baking soda in it or baking powder or something. It's that bitter taste and it gives me a gut's ache. Now I've got a gut, so I'm trying to wash it down with a cup of tea now. I would have made my own flat white, but I had no milk. That's why I went up the road. We're going to talk about some religion today. I did a live on TikTok yesterday and pointed out something. I'll just find it, hang on. There was a passage regarding the Last Supper by Jesus. He says, I am the bread, eat of it, or something similar, right? You can find that passage somewhere in the Bible. I think it was John 16:23. But like all passages of the Bible, if you really want to understand it, and a lot of people are doing this these days, they're breaking the words down, going deep into the etymology of each word to find the true meaning of the sentence or parable or paragraph or whatever. So I thought, okay, what sounds like eat? And straight away you come up with it. So you find the etymology of it, et. It goes back to Latin, and it can mean the word even. Well, blow me down. What is all religion about? Evenness, even time, a time of the year. It's about the duality of our existence, our realm, becoming evenly balanced. And this is represented by the Physica Piscis. Okay? So it all goes back to the sky. That's why we're told to look up, because everything to do with creation is up there. And now we're into, star trailing photography and all that. You start to get a deeper understanding of what's going on. You notice the two star rotations, two separate star rotations. Well, there comes a time of the year where when the southern rotation actually moves north, it contracts, just like a heart does, because our earth is controlled by the central vortex of creation. And it's like the heart, the human heart. It works like a pump, but they don't call it a pump. It's a vortex. And what happens is it contracts in and expands out. So our heart's beating all the time, but with the earthly system, it's a yearly cycle. It contracts in and it contracts out. So, and this is where it gets real weird, because the common man in this perceived physical world cannot comprehend this. Everything or nothing is actually physical. Whenever we move south, we are expanding. Whenever we move back north, we are contracting back. So if you drew the flat earth plan of Earth, it looks like a sea anemone, the type we have in New Zealand here. They're little funny little things. You put your finger in the middle of it, and it'll suck on your finger. Well, it's funny because at the centre of the Earth we have the Milky Way, which is actually a sucky pipe, the pipe that sucks, a vacuum, an actual vacuum. So the sea anemone is the central ring, just like a ring magnet. If you looked at under a ferrocell and saw the magnetic flux, it's got the central point and then the outer field. So you've got the central field and the outer field separated by the tropical gap. Well, there comes a time of the year when the southern stars contract up to the north to overlay. And you might see these images represented by spirals, two vortexual spiral shapes or cones spiraling into each other in books like Walter Russell, The Thing of Light, whatever he calls it, something of light. But it's all the ancients knew all the stuff. You find images of it everywhere, even a bit like the Star of David coming in and marrying into each other. It's about the dualities becoming even, and the whole Bible is about even time. This is what Eve represents. Eve as an even, and it's connected to the atom because the atom is even. It's X and Y. Atom represents male and female. Adam. And he took out of Adam Eve. Well, that's the female. So as we came into this realm, this physical world, am I talking away here? There's only two people. Oh my God. Let's see what happens. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother. It's a bit of a joke, isn't it? Two people, eh? Just goes to show you how shadow banned I am. You go on to any other site that just talks a lot of crap, just for the sake of it, you'll find hundreds of people, if not thousands. I'm not a religious person, so I'm interested to hear your take on this. Pretty sure there's gods or a god, but religion seems like a scam. Yeah, it was 14, yeah. Well, it sort of is. The church is a scam. But I'll just read you a passage out of this book I found on the second-hand book, in the second-hand bookstore. Breaking the Da Vinci Code, this thing here. Okay, it's quite interesting if you want to learn a bit more about religion, what the hell they're on about. You see, and a lot of them understood this V here, which represents the vortex and the feminine. Okay, so I talk a lot about this vortex in my flat earth philosophy. You got Mary there, and there's 13 in here. Why is the 13? Is Mary included? I need to look that up. Because it represents the 13th zodiac sign, which is Ophiuchus. And the only time Ophiuchus comes into the equation is when there's the story of this dude here, the enlightened one, the initiate, the whole Jesus story. Every man on earth has the opportunity to become like Jesus or similar, because he represents the King of the Kings, the most ultimate, the highest form of enlightenment. This is why this book here is written about him. But not everybody can be a king, right? So, but we're all here to be illuminated, which is raise our consciousness and ascend out of this dumbed down realm. Until then, we just stay one of the slaves to the people who run this realm, the higher tier Freemasons and stuff. They hold all the secrets but don't reveal them to the people. They don't want the people to wake up. Otherwise, they're losing their slave race, aren't they? So anyway, this book here, I've gone through it all, underlined a lot of stuff. But there's a little bit of a summary at the end. I've got towards the end here, and I'll just read it to you. And this is how they screw everything. Screw the facts, right? So the church has called this knowledge faith. It is faith in Jesus the Saviour. Well, Jesus is you, the initiate. You are the person to be saved. You can only be saved through yourself, but with the help of the celestial bodies above, because to be saved totally, you need the moon's 1/7. It's all about the moon's position in relation to the sun. It's about polarities across the zodiac. Okay? It is a faith that saves because it embraces life as God created it. In other words, the meaning to life is about waking up. Save yourself. Become a living man. Until then, we are not living men. We are, well, I mentioned the word slaves in the book here. You could call us all Jews until we become Israelites. So it's to save us, you see. This is the only way you get out of this realm, is raising your consciousness. And that's syncing the two hemispheres of your brain, which is what we're going to talk about with the star cycles. They contract and overlay, and that's what creates the physica piscis. This faith receives life as a gracious gift that God makes available to us through the way Jesus has made. He's not someone else. You don't worship an idol. Faith in God through Jesus is the most important message the church preaches, because it is the good news. Yeah, if only they told you it was within you, not somebody else. Okay? Even the Muslims say in their doctrine, you cannot go to Mecca on behalf of anyone else, meaning it's all about you. Okay? But then they go and contradict themselves and do something, I can't even quite remember what it was now. Anyway, such faith understands who we are and our failure, independent of God. Well, in other words, you're not whole until you find this illumination, go through the spiritual awakening. Such faith appreciates our need to know Him. Well, we need to understand what's within us, what the power within the man, within life. And the power of life, it comes through acknowledging what Jesus' death and resurrection tells us about God. So this death is just your old way dying off and coming into the new realm, the higher consciousness. Okay, your resurrection. And it's all a parallel story with the sun. So all the celestial bodies are involved with this, because we are one with the above. So as above, so below. Man is of the earth. And earth is a stamp from above. And did you know that that's literal, because through spectroscopy and zenith cameras, Earth's topography is printed in the sky. It's the negative image, or Earth is the negative image, okay, of above. It's where the light, that's heaven. And to describe that is like breaking an eggshell in half and taking one half up, keeping one half down on Earth. The way they come down interlock, that's what Earth is. The firmament above the Earth, it follows the contours of our Earth, of the Earth. Ourselves in life. Such faith confesses not only sin, but also the need for forgiveness in life. Well, what the story goes, when you're illuminated, it is a very divine experience. And what's basically happening is you're being forgiven for your sins. No one forgives your sins until this event happens. So you could go through many hundreds, thousands of life cycles and never be forgiven your sins. It never happens until you are illuminated, till you go through your awakening, your Christ ascension. Okay? So Jesus, there's 2 syllables on that. That's representing Adam. Atom is dual, male and female. And the funny thing, well, not a funny thing is, but the interesting thing is, the Bible's about the male, right? The king. Because it's the male who initiates the whole event. And it's through his initiation that he marries spiritually a female on earth. There's a woman on earth that has her enlightenment at the same time. And this goes right back to the pagan story of the girls dance in their white dresses dancing around the fire. You've got to realize the fire represents the fire around the central black hole of creation. If you go back and look at some of the old planned views of the ecliptic plane, like Ptolemy's planetary spheres or whatever he calls them, you'll find the center ring as a fiery flame around it. Well, that represents the plasma, the central plasma that governs our entire realm. That's the actual sun back there. We see an image out at our end of the Milky Way moving around the tropical gap, celestial tropical gap. Okay? Because that's the projection. That's what Plato calls in the cave analogy, the shadow on the wall. Because the real image is behind us. And even in Greek pottery and stuff, they have the flippin' guy standing behind the observer holding a flippin' sun or a light. And people still haven't clicked onto that, eh? So in the southern hemisphere, it's a mirrored image of the north. So on every meridian, a sun for that observer comes out of the Antarctic and spirals around in its own celestial cycles, mirroring the north. So everything comes out of the Antarctic for the southern hemisphere, spirals out in a golden ratio, which is, in one of those spirals, represents the Milky Way. That's the one with the sun in it. So the sun is seen anywhere along the length of the Milky Way, along the length of that golden ratio, all relative to the observer, no matter where he is in latitude on the earth. He sees as one-off personal image of the sun. Nothing is physical. Nothing up there is physical, and then you come back down to earth and nothing is actually physical either. Everything is of the light. This is why we all expand as we move south and contract back. It's all due to this expansion and contraction. The field, it's a torus field. It's magnetism. It's all magnetism. Dilation. They all knew this. Einstein, all his crony mates, all those Freemasons back in the day, they just wanted to convert it all into a system where they could control everybody, control everybody's minds. Then, I mean, they're freaking brilliant because their bloodlines go back thousands of years. They're not stupid. So they've perfected the way to enslave the human race, take control of the earth, which, should be the Garden of Eden, but it's not. I'd say it could be if we didn't have the evilness, because if everyone understood enlightenment and never had any fear or hatred, then it would be paradise. Because our realm was all consciousness. It wouldn't exist if the human brain didn't exist in it or, be here. All consciousness. So you look at their Antarctica on their globe and it looks like the shape of a brain, because it is. You've got to expand that back out, right out to the perimeter of the flat earth system, and we're living inside a brain because everything is consciousness. People can't even figure that out for themselves. So this expansion and contraction on a yearly cycle has the southern hemisphere star rotation. Each hemisphere has its own circular rotation of stars, right? The southern ones are exactly the same stars as the north, but they're inside out, they're inverted, and further apart. So because we're out in the southern hemisphere, everything's expanded, we're getting a better view if everything's stretched out. This is why they like coming to the southern hemisphere to form the Milky Way, these astrophotographers. So what's happening that we don't know, because it's all relative to the observer, because the field is contracting, everything contracts with it, we don't know we are contracting north. Now go type this into your phone later. Read all the paragraphs concerning the mountain moving the mountain, or the mountain falling into the sea. Read all the versions, the New English version, all that. It's telling you, realize the sky was considered as the sea. That is the sea up there. Okay? So they're basically telling you that it's contracting in to the center, which is the Physica Piscis. And when they mention mountains, the mountains represent the cliff faces, which are the tropical boundaries of Cancer and Capricorn. There's the celestial gap, the tropical gap, separated by the dielectric, the capacitor plates, you could say, Cancer and Capricorn. Our sun is, you've got to understand creation back at the center Arctic now becomes our understanding out in our realm. So what we know about physics and science, and these globe tarts keep going on about flat earthers not understanding any science or physics, when the whole flat earth system runs on known physics. So if you understand a little bit about capacitance or magnetic induction, even the three-phase induction motor has a gap, right? And the magnetic field crosses 120 degrees, crosses the gap. The same thing happens with this earthly system of ours. The magnetic fields come from the Arctics, they race over to the boundaries, the capacitor plates, they build up there, and the only time they cross over is the pairing at the point where the sun comes around. Because that magnetic field from both sides, asymmetrical, is what creates the vault of heaven, the sun, in that gap. So you can call that gap the vault if you want. But, we know in electrical engineering or whatever, the vault is the sun, the light. So the only time you get the pairing of the two asymmetrical magnetic fields hitting each other is right there at the sun. Bang! Sets the spark. So that's continuously feeding the sun. As the sun moves around the tropical gap, the magnetic field, bang, hits bang, bang, bang. Keeps the sun illuminated. But that's the asymmetry, which is the electrostatics, the friction, creating the volt, the spark, but within that becomes a balance, finds the balance, which gets fed up through the Milky Way the sun is attached to. And that balance, evenness, goes through the Milky Way, like a vacuum pipe, over to the center Arctic to feed the black hole. And at the same time, the actual real sun, the plasma, because the Milky Way is basically the umbilical cord. It gets a little confusing, but once you understand the two systems, the creator and our created realm, you can start to sort of think more. So anyway, what happens during the year? The southern stars move north. Everything contracts. The whole earthly system. This is why they're referencing it in that in regards to the mountain and that falling into the sea, because the both fields come towards the mountain cliff faces, Capricorn and Cancer, and they're diving into the earth. So it's and they mention earthquakes in the Bible, the subduction, going down into the ground. This is also the mythological stories referring to Hades, going down into Hades, or Amente, and things like that, where Persephone goes down into Hades and can't come back out till she eats some pomegranate to pop up again. Well, that's in reference to the sun going down on that gap at the change of the season and popping up around the perimeter into the 24-hour sun around Antarctica. And the pomegranate represents all the seeds all the way around the perimeter inside the pruning hook, which is connected to the plowshare, which is the magnetic field line of the golden ratio that spirals out of the Arctic all the way around to the boundary line of Capricorn. That's the golden ratio. And that's time dilation. Einstein, all those guys, they all knew about it. That's what the magnetic field line looks like. It's a wave. They're infinite waves just moving west. Okay? So that wave goes back to your south end meridian and loops in, like golden ratio loops into its center or where it comes out, and right in the center of that they put a dot, and they in the Bible they represent that dot, or they call it the pomegranate seed. Or was that that might be the Greek mythologies? No, it's in the Bible. They talk about they do. They talk about the pomegranate, the seed. They talk about the pruning hook and the plowshare, all referring to the one meridian line. Every man has this one field if he didn't move. So if he's looking to the south in the southern hemisphere, he sees this southern hemisphere star rotation, which is mirroring an inverted mirror image of the north. Everybody is on a meridian, so everybody is going to see this mirrored projection on a south end meridian. The pruning hook spirals into the center, and that's the center of the star trail. So you want to draw a flat earth plan. You've got to find this, draw the big circle, and draw the tropical boundary at the center, separation. You've got your northern hemisphere and your outer southern hemisphere. Everything in the north spirals out of the center Arctic, and everything out from the south is on a meridian, a straight line from the dead center Arctic out to the south. That's a meridian line. Then you draw your little pruning hook at that south end and curve it out in a spiral and a plowshare golden ratio. That's one curving magnetic field line. And you can mirror, if you're going to draw it up, mirror one of those to a northern one. Even though the northern ones will be very small, you draw it out like that. It's all dilation, just like a Gleason map and arcs of longitude. So the Physica Piscis. So so the time of the year, there's the Physica Piscis, where the southern stars have moved north to overlay the northern hemisphere stars. And this is encoded in Abydos in Egypt, in the, what do you call it, the tomb or whatever, Seti 1. And by the overlays of the reliefs, okay? Because there's original pattern, and then there's an overlay, and it changes the image, and the image becomes what we know today. Everyone talks about, how did they know all that stuff? The image of a submarine or a flash launch or a Black Hawk helicopter, things like that. They are overlaying an original print. Okay? It's just one little hint. But it's all esoteric, so, the average guy's never going to see it. So, did I talk about this? I was going to talk about John 16:23 about the Physica Piscis again, because all of religion's about the Physica Piscis, eventide. And in John 16:23, to do with the Last Supper, Jesus says something like, I am the bread, eat of it. Something like that. So you start thinking, well, what exactly does that mean? So you've got to break the words down etymologically, right down. And what's the first thing that sounds like? It's all about sound, right? Our whole realm comes from sound. In the beginning was word that came out of the mouth. Well, what do you think the black hole represents? The black hole of creation. At the center of the vortex, at the center of the ecliptic plane, at the center of the 2D plane, the center of creation. Everything came out of that black hole as sound. And we have a mouth. That's our black hole. And out of our mouth we speak. And those words basically lay the foundation of your existence. And they've found, you say the nice things to water, and water retains the goodness. So just keep that in your back of your mind. So you go to eat of it, and bread. So eat, we look up et, it of it. It's always something that sounds like it. You have to find the truth. And et, you go to Latin, and it come to mean even. Well, all of religion is about even time, when the Physicapiscus is there, okay? And then bread. Bread represents a piece or a bit, not the whole loaf. So then you convert the whole sentence back to what it should read, and it says, my body is the piece even of it. Well, what's the even bit? The bit, the piece, the Physicapiscus. It all represents a time of the year. Okay? If you want to go deep into this, you go to my Patreon. The Physicapiscus is equal, a piece that is even. At the top here, I've got law. You got L-A-W, you spell it L-A-W, but you convert it back to L-O-R-E. Then it goes to L-A-R, which means learning, teaching, or knowledge. Doctrine, education, or a lesson taught. In addition to folklore, which has been passed down. So it's information the witnesses have passed down to the generations. Those who know have been through it to express the truth. But it's been ambushed and converted into a commercial system they call churches, to take your money and control your minds. They do not want you thinking for yourself. You must come to a mass where we can indoctrinate you and control your thoughts. Moses, you break that down, to draw out of water or pull out. Well, it's all about the water, the flood, right? Well, what's the flood? And it's all psychological. I've tried to explain to people. In the center of your brain, there's brain fluid. Now, that's contained in there. The most precious substance in the human body, the center of your brain, is your holy place. Going up your mountain is going into your holy place. Well, there comes a time at even time that affects the two hemispheres of your brain, syncing them together. You want to understand more about this? You go to the CIA papers called the Gateway Process. Now that's a temporary fix. The spiritual story in the Bible is a permanent fix. It's not ayahuasca, it's a permanent fix. The gates will be opened and they will not be shut. Well, they're the floodgates, aren't they? The floodgates let the water rush down through your system. Release a little bit of that divine water, fluid. It's your flood. Which mixes with the gates. When the gates are opened, something has to part ways. And just imagine if you're a virgin and you part ways with something, it bleeds. Well, You mix the holy water with the wine, the blood. At the same time, the celestial bodies, the moon, is doing her bit, adding her 1/7, causes the pituitary gland to release the oil. It's a trinity: water, wine or blood, and the oil. They mix in the human body. This is the Christos. And during the divine event, you stand up and it flushes through your entire system. That's why in the Bible, in John, it says, ye to he who stands up and walks. It's not about some guy in a wheelchair. No, this is how they control your mind. You've got to dive deeper. Be a deep diver. Yeah, and that's your journey. That's your entry into this. It's your creation story. You have now become a living man, a living soul. You've raised your soul from out of your sacrum, from out of your asshole, because that's where people's mentality sits at the moment, way down there near their asshole, and it ascends to the spiritual realm, the God zone, the mountain. You've got to consider the human as like a spark between the earth. You can call the female, she's magnetism. It's basically what earthing is. Earthing is magnetism. The magnetism in the ether, it's electrical, right? So you've got the electrical above and the magnetic below, and you're going to be the spark in between. So at a particular time, when the moon's full, the most ultimate time for this to happen is when the moon is full, because that's full magnetic potential, but it's negative potential, and the sun is diagonally opposed in a polarity across the zodiac, you could say. And the perfect time is 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when Earth's magnetic field is at its strongest. Believe it or not. Bang! It's going to happen. Come like a thief in the night, as it's described in the Bible. Comes like a thief in the night. And these people, the initiates, then turn to the Bible because, or their religious book, whichever doctrine they're into, because it's according to your works. So, well, then again, hang on, let's back up a bit here. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to know anything. You just have to have an open mind. You've lived a life with an open mind. You don't take everything as gospel, as fact. You just keep an open mind, and along the way, you're adding one and one together, two and two together, and you're forming a bit of a picture. And if you're an open-minded person, not an ignoramus like 99% of the people are in this world, you will gain this enlightenment if you're lucky, if all the stars align and your heart and mind are balanced, and you'll go through this enlightenment. Quite a divine story, and it's all described in the Bible, you see. So for someone who's not religious, but he's been brought up amongst, like if he's European, amongst the Christians, when you're a kid, like I was a kid, we got, I'm 65 now, and, you put on your little shorts and your nice white collared shirt, and they march you off to church up until I was about 7 or 8, probably. Maybe 9, 10, I can't quite remember. But I remember as a little kid, little shorts on, your little black shorts, or whatever they were, and your white shirt, and they march off to this old church down the road. You have to sit there and bored shitless while they bloody talk about some weird stuff you know nothing about. So he will be led to the Bible. He will be given parables. See, what happens is God speaks to you, believe it or not. We call it God. We call him God. And he reads these three parables to you, recites these three parables. So that's what makes you think, well, is that in the Bible? And then another one comes along, gee, is that in the Bible? So that you are then prompted to go and get a Bible, aren't you, the next day when you get out of bed? And you find, well, there they are. Like, for instance, to know me is to know thy Father. So you look that up and find it's in John. And then another one might be, to get to the Father, you go through me. Not an exact same word, but you find, oh, that's in John too. And then there's the third one. I can't think of a third one, but anyway. So along your journey, you start adding one and one together, two and two, and you find, okay, so your event might be connected to John in the Bible. And John is a central character in the whole book, isn't it? And he's basically just before Revelation. So does he represent the King of Kings who comes at the end times, like the end of a cycle, a constellation or something? Is there a king of? Oh, there is. There must be. There's a king representing each zodiac sign. So there's 12 king of kings. So there could be a lot of kings, but only one king of the kings, king of the Jews. And this goes back to the moon being in 12 signs per month, which makes 12, right? And then the sun has to be in 12 signs over the year. And because it's due to polarities, you've got 12 times 12 is 144 thou send. Not 000 in this instance. It's 144 thou send. Not 1,000, thou send. See, this is what you've got to watch out in the Bible, the way things are interpreted. Other story, like all the ancient stories and myths and legends, all concern the same thing, the physica-piscus, like when they talk about in the Bible Asia Minor. I don't know if they mention Asia Major, do they? But this goes back to Artemis and Anatolian. Asia Minor is about Turkey, and Turkey, being West Asia, the majority of the land, and then you've got the other side, split by the water. Well, there's all a story represent the physica-piscus. There's the physica-piscus about the two lands coming together. You've got the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere crossing the water, crossing the celestial gap. And that's where you find the physica-piscus, within the gap. It is the gap. So these are supposed to be historical stories. I actually think of physical, actual history. It's all spiritual, mythological astrophysics. The Hellespont to the northwest of Turkey there, the Black Sea to the north, Mediterranean Sea to the south. What it actually boils down to is it's the Asia Minor, Turkey region, and Crete. Crete? Turkey? That's frickin' Italy. How can that be that? Don't know, can't remember now. Yeah. But there are stories, a lot of the stories regard Crete, because Crete represents that island separation, the bit in the middle, which is the Physica-Piscis, right? And then you add this so-called Asia Minor as the dual story, I think. The peninsula, as the banks. There's always the banks of the Jordan. It's always about the bank. It's about one tropical side, a side of the tropics, because it's associated to the magnetic field of the Earth. There's no declination through the tropics, but there is a bit of fluff that comes into each side of the tropics, 7 degrees. This is why it's represented in the Bible, the physics book, and they call it 7 days of purification. So you've got to get rid of this magnetic fluff before you enter the barren, the 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, deserted of the magnetic field. It's the Holy Land in that system, okay? And as above, so below. This is how you've got to think of things. So in that Anatolia story, or etymology, myths and stuff, you got to think of Asia Minor could represent the Physica-Piscis once more, separated from the rest of Asia. So they talk of Asia Minor, but the rest of Asia is the other part, like the not included in the Physica-Piscis, the other parts of the circle. There's only a certain part which was represented by man's hour. As this Physica-Piscis takes place, it only lasts for 2.5 days each side of the sun's inner lemma. And you being on Earth on a meridian line want to seek that balance, want to be aligned with that connection, but it has to involve your celestial bodies, your moon sign and all that sort of thing. But that's a long story too. It is written, the rest of Asia was culturally, historically, and geographically quite different from Anatolia. See, so you consider Anatolia as another name for the Physica-Piscis. So it made sense to make an explicit distinction. Apparently, no one ever spoke of any Asia Major. It's all about the minor, the Physica-Piscis. There's lots of names for it. The Physica-Piscis, let's go through some names. Rome. All the Roman stories are all about Rome, which is the Physica-Piscis. You've got Romulus and Remus representing both hemispheres. And then there's the spiritual side of them both, where one has to die. So the old self dies and the other one goes on to be a living man, sort of thing. You've got Athens, or Athena, Atlantis, a Greek. You come out of there, you're a Greek. You come out of there, there's lots of names. Probably every country on earth has a story. So you could say every country on earth actually represents that place, coming out of that place. You think of little old New Zealand way down here in the southern hemisphere. I'll just be back in a minute. You see, most humans are just followers. They're like sheep, and that's why God refers to them as the lamb or whatever. Well, that's a different story too. Yeah. Well, actually, they're like sheep. They just follow. They don't stop and think for themselves. They'll just do what they're told and all that sort of thing. Like the silly mothers back in the day, listening to the silly so-called Jews who told them to chop the foreskins off your baby boys. I mean, that's one of the dumbest things ever, eh? One of the dumbest things ever when you frickin' know the truth. You don't go and chop off something that God's created. Do you? Yeah, well, they do, because there's... Anyway, the circumcision is all about the spiritual story, the spiritual enlightenment of man, and the circumcision is that part that opens, the gates that open, and they will bleed when it's open. They're flaps of skin, and it's in the claustrum of your brain. And it's the flaps of skin when a woman loses her virginity that part and bleeds, doesn't it? Well, all of religion is about man finding his lost Lilith, his feminine aspect within him, and it's hidden under the veil. And for him, his spiritual enlightenment is him going through this feminine aspect within him, finding his lost Lilith. Back to two people now. So if you got reincarnated, you didn't make the cut, so to speak, because I feel like I've done this before, many times before. So if you get reincarnated, you didn't make the cut. Exactly. So once you go through your proper divine awakening, you control what's going on. You can come in and go when you like. Or even come and go as whatever animal you like. As far as I know, beyond that, I'm not sure. But that's the way it is. Your mind, because everything is about the mind. Everything, like all these monuments, or not monuments, what do you call them? Megaliths, and especially in India, the craftsmanship in those structures, it's all sound resonance and of the mind. Everything is of the mind. Imagine when we get to that state where our mind can do anything, create anything. And to get close to understand this, you need to understand how things can be cancelled, or you match your frequency. You've got to be in the right octave, though, for all these things to happen. It's understanding that. So having a great depth of music, understanding it, is helpful. Knowing colours cancel each other out. And it all goes back to physics too. When you get a solar eclipse, that's what's happening. The planet, the Trinity, the third entity, is cancelling out the sun's energy at that particular moment as the sun and Milky Way pass over it. I've spoken about that before. But you don't normally remember your past lives. That's not normal. But, we all have deja vu, right? Actually, I had one the other day. I forget what it was now. I haven't had it for years. I just realised, yeah. It was like I've been through it all. Whatever was happening at the time. Yeah, it's funny, eh? But I don't know how that works, because we're not the same. I mean, all the information is locked in your pineal gland. I think where else can it be? Or in your... It's got to be in the pineal gland. I think it goes out. The spirit goes out, and it'll come back. It's never lost. It's like energy. You can't kill it, destroy it. It just gets reincarnated, recycled. So it goes out, but for you to reappear back into the earth, because basically a star up there represents your soul. Everybody has a star. and it's forever. It's like an electron. This is why science calls them electrons. It's basically a star, and it's going through this infinity symbol all the time. Okay? That can't be right either. Somehow it's going through this infinity cycle. You're flowing through the system all the time, and the only time you come into this realm is when you get that pairing, where I mentioned earlier, where you hit the sun. That's the pairing. The only time the energies are paired at the top of the mountain, bang, where the sun is. The rest just fall, by the way, fall down there, down the tropical boundary lines into the earth to cross over the hemispheres and go back up to the opposite Arctics to continue their cycle. And they just keep cycling till they find the pairing. So everyone along the way will find a pairing sooner or later, but it just depends, maybe how consciously evolved you are, or how much you are not. Innocent children might come back in straight away or quite quickly because they haven't been screwed in the head yet with all the false indoctrination. But, the dumber you are, the thicker you are, the more ignorant you are, the lowest level you're going to come back as. It could come back as some sort of sea creature that never sees light. Allegory of the cave was definitely on to something. Yeah, well, that's right. Abraham says hello. Hello. It is a brilliant design. I'll give them that. Yeah, it is, isn't it? That makes sense to me. Right light and sound are connected. Yeah, I get that part. Trevor says hello. Hello, Trevor. I did the Gateway CDs a while back. I did the Gateway CDs. CDs, yeah. Beware of fake pastors and fake prayers. All action just for money and donations. Don't depend on these brokers to talk to God. The only person who can put hands on you are one of these illuminated people, because he has what they call the mark of the beast in the right hand, and he'll put his right hand on you, and if you have full faith and he has full faith, he can heal you. Believe it or not. He has the power within him. He is one with the universe. But like it says in the Bible, it's this unsuspecting person. No one knows who the hell he is. And it also says, if let's say I was illuminated, nobody in my family would believe me. And it states in the Bible, you can never be a prophet in your own land because everybody knew you beforehand. So there's no way they're going to think that you know something all of a sudden. They don't listen to you. This is why you've got to preach in some other land away from the people that know you, because they're just brain dead, basically. So going to church is a complete waste of time. It just shows you how ignorant people are. They can't think for themselves. They just follow. I mean, Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you. Didn't he? I mean, what do you want? And didn't he say, don't worship idols? It's just so ignorant. People are so ignorant, aren't they? 13 moon cycles, 28 days each. Yes, but that's only sidereal. That's not Sidonic. You've got to think full moons. The moon cycle doesn't mean much if you're not getting your full moon. There's only 12 full moons in a year. Okay? And it's all about the full moon. That's pregnancy, the mother, full-blown pregnancy for spiritual birth. The whole Jesus story is full birth, the full moon in Pisces. Diagonally across, below the feet of Virgo, go read the Revelation. Virgo, beneath her feet. What's beneath her feet? Well, you've got to draw it as a zodiac. Her feet are pointing across the zodiac, across the black hole center, aligning with the Pisces. Okay? That's a polarity. That's what it's all about. So the 13th sign in the zodiac, sun position, only comes into play when a Christ is born. But hang on. And that's okay. There could be a Christ. It's a long story, but when the sun is in, when Saturn, Jesus' story is when Saturn was in Ophiuchus, okay? So whenever Saturn is in Ophiuchus, maybe that's, well, for starters, that's every 29.5 years, but that's only part of the story. You've got to get the full moon at 3 o'clock in the morning, the full moon in Pisces, and within the 5 holy days. That's why the Jesus story is so rare, and that's why it's kept in the Bible. Missing one month and one zodiac. No, it's Ophiuchus. That's only for a short person. It's like an overlaying Sagittarius anyway, isn't it? It's an overlay before it passes into Capricorn. And that's probably why this is where they confuse you in religion. They what they do is they confuse the spiritual illumination of a man, of the initiate, with his physical birth. See, there's the physical in our realm, but he's got to find the spiritual. That's his second, his duality is hidden. It's hidden under the veil. So you've got a physical conception and a physical birth. The spiritual enlightenment has a spiritual conception and a spiritual birth. Now, it's all about planetary alignments. Where were the planets and stars at the time of your physical conception? Because that's when it's going to come around again, the return of Christ, at your spiritual conception. Then it goes on from there. Love always. Love. God is good. Yes. Love is Lord, whatever. Energy can't be created. Yeah. Namaste. The divine spark of God in me acknowledges and blesses the divine spark of God in you. Exactly. It's all within you. Now, it's about keeping an open mind, because it's about that gap between the two hemispheres of your brain. So think of that gap, keeping it open to absorb the divine information from above. And this is basically what happens after your illumination. You enter a higher consciousness, which means you're now connected to the higher realm, all the extra information. That what makes these people wise men. The ancient philosophers were wise men because they have this extra knowledge. And specifically on the subject they may have been working on, because this event is described as, giving you according to your works. So let's say I'm a flat earther. I'm trying to understand flat earth at the time, and I have an awakening. What's it going to make me? It's going to make me an expert on flat earth physics. Take what you will from that. India is on another level, definitely. Oh, India, yeah. Wow. Well, they know the Hindus and all, they know that all about reincarnation, and it can happen millions of times. We might all go through the entire animal kingdom. But it all depends on the consciousness of your fathers, your forefathers. Okay? It's all about that, how dumb, how dozy or awake they were. And back in the day, this illumination took place quite often because they weren't all falsely indoctrinated like everybody has been in the last 200 years because of the way the Zionists control the realm, the world we live in. It's all bullshit. All your history, it's all bullshit. All written by the victors, the killers, the murderers. Lots of deja vu. Yeah, okay. Well, you really want to take note of your dreams at about 3 o'clock in the morning, around about there. Then, those are the most divine ones. They'll represent something. My latest one was about. It's quite good actually. Man, I've got all this information. If only I could write frickin' properly. I was never good at comprehension or English at school. So I'm going to need a lot of help from AI. But then you think, well, who's running this AI? They're going to take all my information, plagiarize it, steal it, somehow prevent me from getting it out there or print it, And obviously they've stamped on me now. They've got their foot on my head when it comes to getting information out. Because look, I've got 2 fucking people here listening to me on YouTube. I'm supposed to have 9,500 subscribers like years ago. And there's 2 people here. The same with TikTok, you see. So this dream was about the sun, its position at a particular time and all that. And it all marries in with everything the Egyptians have told us. So it's bringing all that out into the light. Will be interesting. My next book is, I'll just get it. I normally buy all these ancient books through second-hand shops. It cost me a couple of bucks. So I've just finished the Breaking the Da Vinci Code. It was quite interesting. A lot of information there regarding religion that makes some connection for me. I was never a religious person. I've just bought Purakau, I think it's pronounced, Purakau. Mary Myths Retold. Okay? So this is only one culture, the Maoris. All their myths and legends are basically stories regarding the physics of our flat earth realm. All the ancients knew them. But I want this to be one of my first stories, if I do get around to writing it, explaining every one of their myths and what it actually represents, because even the Maoris don't understand it. They don't know what it's for. No cultures, no one around the world understands all the mythological stories of coming from their own ancestors. Right. Hemisync CDs, pioneered by Robert Monroe. Interesting stuff called the Gateway. Yeah. It's syncing the 2 hemispheres of the brain, and because we're of the Earth, the earthly system does the same thing. The 2 celestial star rotations sync. They marry, and this is what the Physica Piscis is all about. You try asking a religious person about the Physica Piscis, they know nothing about it. You say, well, hang on, why do they always depict Mary sitting in an oval shape? Mary, which represents the moon, with her baby, which represents full moon, giving birth, full term. Why do they always draw Mary sitting in this oval image that looks like the Physica Piscis then, buddy? They know nothing. They know nothing. That's a crime in itself, because this is great stuff. Yeah, so David, there's only you and Lailashchimiti. 4. Oh, there's 4 here now. Whoa, bonanza. Eureka. So should we go over some passages in this book, Breaking the Da Vinci Code, things I've underlined, and then I can probably break them down. Quite interesting. Let's start at the beginning here. Okay, the forward. Only one God, creator of the universe. Yes, it's because there's only one central vortex of creation. Okay. Turned away from their creator. Yeah, everyone's turned away. As we're born into in the physical realm, we become dual because creation's about singularity. There's only one central vortex. Well, you go back further than that. There's only the 2D plane, the top of the vortex. Like you got a still pond. The primordial deep came from that. So you take a still pond and you vortex it, start spinning it. It's a whirlpool. Then it gets bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden it's got the suction through the guts of it, creating the black hole and the 3D vortex. Okay? That's coming into the 3D now, see? You've gone from the 2D plane stillness to the 3D vortex. So it goes from the plane to the vortex, and then the vortex hits the right frequency because sound comes out of that hole, quite noisy, and hits the right frequency and illuminates a molecule in that water, which is a star, like solar luminescence, and that's what becomes the sun. So that star had the same matching frequency as this vortex. That's why it was illuminated. It sort of works in reverse when you think of our physical realm, because we have a matching something, it'll cancel it out. Okay, because creation is inverted to our realm. Inverted. Just like the southern hemisphere is inverted to the northern hemisphere. Because we have to replicate it, don't we? We replicate creation. So turned away from the creator, so we become this dual, and we have to find our way back to singularity. Sin entered the world through this duality. He sent his only son, which is the S-U-N, within man. Well, earth has a son. Man has a son too. Man is of the earth. What's his son? His son's his pineal gland. You have to illuminate it. And this is rebirth. You have to find the light within you, the God within you. This pre-existent son, it's all here, but they spin it differently. They don't want to tell you the truth. Of the God entered the human. Entered the human. It's called enlightenment, buddy. Pre-existent son, Matthew 1-2, and Luke 1-2 tell of a human birth. Yeah, rebirth. Initiative of the Spirit of God. Raise the Spirit within you. Illumination. Jesus' entry into the human. Reincarnation. Or incarnation. Incarnation. Basically, return of Christ, coming back into oneness. Jesus offered mankind returning to be with God as the end of all human history. The end of the story. I mean, it's a creation story coming back to singularity. You have to return back to this place at the beginning and the end time. God made all things well at the beginning and end times. You started off as singularity. End times for you is going back home. That's your Yellow Brick Road or Wizard of Oz story. New creation. It's your creation. Going back to creation. Newness of life and freedom may be found in Jesus, in this resurrection. To show that it is a fraud. What's this? Christian story have been Christian tradition. To show that it is a fraud. With no basis in fact or reason, blah, 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 whatever. Don't know what that is. Canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's all about these four here, you see. And I think that represents the cross, because everything's about the cross, okay? We have Taurus and Scorpio, is it? And we have the divine Jesus story is Sun in Virgo, full moon in Pisces. And then you have the cross, the four stars that crisscross across Orion's belt, which is Rigel and Sirius. And down here we have Aldebaran, or is it Betelgeuse? One of the two, Aldebaran and Betelgeuse. These two stars, Aldebaran and Betelgeuse, are actually mirrors of these two up here, Rigel and Sirius. Believe it or not, think about it, because between those stars and these stars is the street, the celestial tropical gap, where the mirroring effect takes place. So this Sirius becomes the star over here, which is Rigel or Aldebaran, I can't remember now, and Rigel becomes this one here. They are flipped. Boom, bingo. So I think this is why there's the four only in the main story. And the Gospels of Thomas is interesting, because it's straight to the point. There's no fluffing around. He's telling you the facts there. Regarded as carrying more authentic historical traditions than Matthew. Yeah. Put this up here, shall we? Imposed upon by imperial and ecclesiastical authority. Let's go back a bit. Christian story. Loved by millions and described above, has been imposed upon the Christian church by imperial and ecclesiastic authority. In other words, for almost 2,000 years, Christians have been subjected to the mushroom treatment. If you want mushrooms to grow, you keep them in the dark and feed them rubbish. That's a good one. It's exactly what's going on. All of religions, actually. Oh, no, I wouldn't say that, no. Mary Magdalene and her relationship with Jesus. This is what the story's about. They're trying to prove that Mary Magdalene wasn't married to Jesus, because not Da Vinci, in the Da Vinci Code, they're trying to make out that Mary Magdalene was married to Jesus. They've got no idea that Mary represents the moon. Okay, the moon was in the cave, the tomb, before Jesus got there. But they tell the story that Mary was first there with some other females because she's slower. Obviously, the sun is quicker in the Milky Way, comes along and catches up with her. So there's this alignment. She's in the tomb, ready for this alignment, the Physica-Piscis alignment, with the sun, the moon, and the Trinity being the initiate, whoever's star's going to end up in there at the same time to be illuminated. And you know, the Physica-Piscis is all about the arcs, right? There's two arcs in the Physica-Piscis. Ark, Noah's Ark. Everything's about ark. Akhenaten. Joan of Arc. Since Homer began to describe epic sea voyages in the Odyssey hundreds of years ago, I've got a feeling this person knows a lot more than what he's letting on. Homer's Iliad is all about the tropical gap, the battle between the Cancer and Capricorn, electrostatics, electromagnetic induction, capacitance, you know, with the light, the voltage, the sun is created in there. Is the battle. Electrostatics. That's what it's all about. Esoteric, of course. Variety of Scion includes figures such as Sir Isaac Newton, the painter Botticelli. I've done a post about this on my Patreon, I think. One of my favourites, yeah. Leonardo da Vinci. All these people are all the wise ones. They've all gone through it. That's why they know so much. Leonardo da Vinci's left a lot of hints, Catholic organisations that allegedly brainwashed and engages in coercion, to put it mildly. Was Jesus married to Mary Magdalene? Of course not. Christianity finally won its battle with paganism. No, well, Christianity comes from paganism. To find the truth of this, you need to understand all this, because all the truth is there. In his book, key characters state that Jesus was married and had children. The initiates are the children of Christ, the spiritually awoken. It is possible that Christ did not die on the cross. Of course he didn't. He was reborn. And this cross is about the sun's analemma as well, remember? The sun crosses over in the analemma on the crossover. Okay? Was married, a father, and his bloodline still exists. Yes, his bloodline, the Christed people, bloodlines, because they go through the generations. So the people ruling the world today may have never experienced it themselves, but they're in the club. Probably their bloodlines have been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they're so corrupted now with this information. They're just horrible, just murdering, horrible, genocidal freaks. Decided to sign on for an investigation. Look at these ideas. Let's come back here. Where they came from, where their ideas were as new and some suggested. I decided to sign on for an investigation. Yeah, okay, probably about the writer. Yeah, it is. 325 years immediately following the birth of Christ. LOL, yeah. It's a forever occurring event. There's no freaking chronology to it. It's all garbage. Mag, pearl, storehouse, needing, power, fashion, fit, to be able, have power, magus, magic, and magician, delayed, delian, to put off. Don't know what the letters. Mother of his children. She's the mother, the moon. She is the mother. Worship thy mother and thy father is the moon and the sun. You are the initiate. You are now the child, reborn, a man-child. Holy Grail. I've got the Holy Grail. Blood and its bloodline. I know what the Holy Grail is. I've created the flat earth model, which is the Holy Grail as well. The evidence of the V shape, there you go, to the left side of Jesus as one looks at the painting. It's the feminine aspect they know about it, you see. The central vortex of creation. Look, it's in the center. These guys know. I mean, well, Leonardo did. The central vortex of creation. It represents the feminine aspect. That's the magnetic field, the magnetism. Up on the 2D plane at the top is the electrical. Together they create the electromagnetic. V. Magdala, the fishing town of Pisces. Mary Magdalene. Mary was full in Pisces in the Jesus event. Full moon, Pisces. While the sun was in Virgo, the Virgin giving birth. Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary, the mother of the initiate, the illuminated. Your sister as in feminine aspect. When they talk about this, your sister is within you. And then all these idiots think incest, you know. They're really referring to your sister. Marrying your sister. You got no idea. It's a spiritual birth within man where he's finding his lost Lilith. Reuniting back into singularity. Marrying his sister. Sistine Chapel. Look up chapel. Modern day Migdal, located near the Sea of Galilee in Israel. near the sea again. So you're near the banks of the Jordan. It's always about the banks because it represents the Capricorn and Cancer, the banks, the tropical boundary lines. Jesus' main ministry took place in the Sea of Galilee area, Galilee. It's representing the banks. I don't know why I'm here. I'm wasting my day away. There's only 3 people listening. Yeah. I am the sun. The moon comes after my death this time. And that doesn't make sense. No. Oh, I'll leave it at that. You know, if only I could do these lives. Oh, probably can, eh? I should be doing lives straight to my Patreons, actually. If I can. I don't get that download properly or something. Man, there's a lot of information here, okay? It's a big long library of video on its own, but just I don't get any audience. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, eh? Thanks for calling by, David. And a couple of others. I'll go to TikTok. I think I came in because I thought, oh no, I got 100 and something people on TikTok yesterday.